There you go. All right, welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a good networking session. We're going to continue our program, and we're going to talk about education now. We're very excited, very honored, very pleased to have Joseph Mas, Managing Director for EDTN Partners in Asia Pacific, who has prepared a very, very insightful keynote presentation on the state of SDG 4, so quality of education, in our region. So very excited to hear from Joseph. How are you, Joseph, today?
I'm fine. I'm fine, Camille. Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me to this exciting event, and thanks to Robin also, and to the Startup Buddy for this for making things so easy for all of us. Thank you.
Wonderful. Let's get started. Take it away, Joseph. You can start sharing your screen.
Thank you. I'll do that in a second. Please let me know when you can see my screen. Can you see the presentation already? Hello? Oh. Hello? Can you hear me? I can't.
Yeah, Joseph, we can.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And apologies for the hesitation to begin with. Yes, I mean, thanks everybody for being here today. I sincerely hope that I can make sense of what is required and live to the expectation of Camille's wonderful introduction. I would like to start the journey with just by sharing 3 images. I mean, I'll do a Vivaldi on all of you, looking for some musical comparison and present different stages, the different stages of the presentation in groups of 3. So I would like to start sharing 3 pictures. I mean, and the images 1 and 2 are examples of 2 contexts in stark contrast. We won't have time to go into each of them in detail, but I would like you to think of parallels that can be drawn from one another. I mean, the first picture, most likely some of you will have seen. I mean, this was taken in Lebak in Indonesia, and it shows a bunch of children risking falling into an overflown river on a broken a broken bridge. I mean, a partially collapsed bridge. When asked, the children said that they would rather risk it than take 30 minutes longer in going to the next bridge. And this picture has often been used to, in a way, to show, to signal the arduous road to education. I mean, it went viral in 2012. The bridge was actually mended very, very soon after, but it's actually, I mean, it remained as you know, as a signal to many other bridges that are waiting to be fixed, you know, both physically as well as metaphorically when it comes to education. The second picture brings us back to here, to Singapore, to where I am right now. I'm sure you can see the contrast. This is a picture of my son, Juan, when he was 9. He was playing Minecraft on his PC while he was watching a tutorial on his iPod. And I remember he was also listening to music that he had converted into MP3 from MP4. He was listening it out of his iTunes lists. Now, it seems easy to draw a comparison between both images, but the fact is that disparities can be found also in places like Singapore. Where recent research said that for every 100 students from the richest quartile of households, only 28 students from the poorest households actually achieve minimum proficiency in mathematics. Think also of Finland. I mean, Finland obviously is not in our region, but Finland has the highest rate of secondary school dropouts in the whole of Europe, which may be quite a paradox when we all think of Finland's prowess in education. But the one element that I think brings all the individuals in both pictures together is a sense of agency. I mean, all these individuals, I think, demonstrate that they have the attitude to positively influence their own lives and the lives around them, even if they may not be aware of it as yet. And agency is something that I will go back to in the next 10 minutes or so. The third picture you may also have seen, and it's one of my favorite pictures. I use it all the time in all the presentations. I know that Camille has seen it before, for which I apologize. It shows the differences between equality and equity. According to the latest progress review launched by UNESCO and UNICEF of SDG 4 in the region, the main problems actually remain inclusivity, equitable, and the quality of education. This actually remained the main problem here in the region. And of all the concepts that I would like to transmit today, actually equity is among the top three. Now, this is a good segue to actually spend some minutes talking about challenges. And when we talk challenges in education in Asia Pacific, we can all think of the top five. We have socioeconomic factors, we have inequality, we have very poor infrastructure in places, we have a stark digital divide in many parts of the region, and we also know that there is a lack of digital skills. Again, I just concentrate on three of these challenges, and I just wanted to show some basic data around them. So when we speak of socioeconomic factors, and I'm sure that you can think of many, we don't need to go through them in detail, but one thing I would like to highlight as an example is one of the characteristics of our societies, very especially in South and Southeast Asia, which is the extensive segment of a society that operates within the informal economy. And here you have three stark examples of what happens when there is a strong crisis and how crisis can actually affect these societies that operate in the informal economy. Actually, this is very, very similar to the situation in Latin America, where thousands of private schools had to close due to the pandemic because families could no longer afford to send the children to those schools. Second example, talking about digital divide and infrastructure and access to devices, is precisely a comparison. And all the data that I'll be using today actually comes from UNICEF and UNESCO, and it's built around SDGs in particular. Now, this research reveals that the average household access to laptops and desktop computers across these four countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and the Philippines, was at only 36% and 20% respectively when the report was issued in late 2021. We know that the situation is not very different in other countries in the region, such as Pakistan, India, or Bangladesh. What is really, really interesting to highlight here is the weight of mobile technologies in the region. Mobile phones are ubiquitous, and startups really need to think if there is a real incentive sometimes in pushing laptops or even edtech technology, edtech that will operate on laptops and desktops only. If we should actually be following and paying way more attention to mobile solutions. The third example is about digital literacy, and it's divided into two slides. Again, stark comparison when we have a look at both. This first one is about self-perceived level of digital literacy by socio-demographic subgroups. We could have seen this by country. I think it's way more interesting to look at it in terms of differences between men and women, age groups, and the divide between urban and rural societies. And if you pay attention to the age group, just notice one of the other concepts that I would like to talk about during the session today, which is the 10 to 14-year-old age band. I mean, we're talking Gen Alphas here already. Now, take this image at the back of your mind and compare it to the next one, which shows the perceived level of importance of digital literacy by the same or for the same groups. The difference is really striking, as you can tell, and pay attention in particular once again to the Gen Alphas and how they are way above the other age groups when reflecting on the awareness of how important digital skills and digital literacy will be for them in the future, socially as well as professionally, as well as academic. Let's move on to SDG 4s very quickly. You know that SDG 4 is all about ensuring inclusive and equitable quality of education and promoting lifelong learning and opportunities for all. For sure, the challenges that we've seen and that we're all aware of have direct bearing on the progress towards the common goals. And the same situation as with other SDGs, the pandemic has actually meant going back substantially for some of them. I'm sure that you're all familiar with the list of SDGs, that you know that we have a number of targets, that they're at the same time divided into indicators. What we want to do today is concentrate on 3 of them. So we're going to concentrate on 4.1 around primary and secondary education, as well as number 4, skills for work, and number 4.7, sustainable development and global citizenship. The reason is very clear. I personally think that these are critical for the future of the region in particular. Having a quick look at 4.1, some of the information that you will see here is not new to you. We're talking about great disparities in access to quality education across the region. We're talking about gender disparity in completion rates, which is more prominent among the poorest households. Again, those that have been severely affected by the pandemic across the board. Inadequate school infrastructure and limited physical and digital resources remain the main challenges in this particular field. When we have a look at 4.4, it is worth mentioning that we're suffering a double disruption, which is being led by automation overlapping with COVID-19. And this is clearly reshaping the work and the skills required by the different industries and markets. I'm sure that you all have examples in mind. I mean, in a report towards the end of 2020, the WEF stated that there were that by 2025 there would be 85 million jobs estimated to be displaced, and that 40% of core skills would change for workers. So what we need to bear in mind in particular is that as the economies have stated, the future of work is also the future of talent. So this particular SDG is absolutely critical for the future of the region. Allow me to go back for a second to the same report that I extracted data from in just a short while ago, just to show how relevant digital skills are for the younger generations. And these data come from extensive surveys carried out with students from 10 years of age to 24 years of age. Very, very important to reflect on the 5 main reasons, because these are also linked to the other SDGs. So we're talking about developing other skills, learning better. So technology, edtech, digital skills are here to help individuals learn better, become better learners, to become more connected with the community. So we're talking citizenship, we're talking socialization. Also to prepare for the job market. Once again, this realization is critical. And last but not least, to feel more confident and empowered. Agency coming up once again. Moving now quickly on to the relevance of 21st century skills. Just one quick thing here to leave with all of you. I'm sure that you're aware of all this, that instead of the total years of experience, skills are becoming really, really quickly the preferred qualification for businesses seeking new hires. In recent research, I think it was carried out by Deloitte, if I remember correctly, not even STEM came up. I mean, the top skills that managers and CEOs and recruiters were actually calling for were 21st century skills. So we've seen some of the challenges exemplified. We've also seen evidence of how these impact SDG 4. So now it's time to have a look at how cloud technology can help with these challenges, how we can actually overcome them. To begin with, we all know that technology is playing a critical role in transforming education and that it has a real potential to help overcome these challenges. First of all, it acts as an enabler of transparency, accountability, and collaboration. And this is absolutely critical for decision makers, for administrators, for teachers, because it allows to centralize knowledge instead of having distributed random buckets of data that do not talk to one another. And in this particular case, I always talk about the difference between data, information, and knowledge. Data can be equated to noise if it is not turned into meaningful information, but information as such is not all that relevant unless it allows us to confirm or challenge our hypothesis. That's the point when we actually have knowledge. That's the point when we can act on information. That's the point when we can make faster decisions, when all stakeholders can actually access the up-to-date and stable data to make meaningful decisions. So data accessibility gives way to transparency and accountability at the same time, while it makes it possible to personalize education and learning experiences, encouraging participation and making the whole process more inclusive. Inclusivity and sustainability will very soon replace the concept that we have as democratization when it comes to education. This is something we need to bear in mind. About to wrap up, this is one of my favorite diagrams, the one presenting the differences between audiences and community, because it reflects what can be achieved with technology and the role that human beings have in actually interacting with this technology in a meaningful way. We can help transform the classroom and the overall teaching and learning experience. We can actually introduce agency and co-agency. We can move away gradually from a teacher-centered classroom and favor a student-centered and more collaborative context. And I'm sure that you all have in mind what's possible thanks to working on the cloud. I mean, we're speaking hybrid models, synchronous and asynchronous delivery. We're talking about the role of AI-driven adaptability that will allow instructors, teachers to deliver a truly personalized experience for students. Very quickly, as I was saying before, inclusion and sustainability will soon replace democratization in education as a concept, as a core concept. And here is where SDG 4, thanks to technology, brings together even what we've been talking about today. Talking about smart cities, talking about smart health. If we think that very specially with the advent of the pandemic and how we've all been reacting to it, I think you will all agree with me that the way the world is emerging is one where individuals are exposed to highly connected living. We're all way more concerned about preventive healthcare and our own well-being. And I won't get started on the Great Resignation and other signals that we can see around this. But we also know that there will be strong emphasis on sustainable economy. And this new sustainability, when it comes to EdTech, to technology at large, but to EdTech in particular, it means that we need to take an ethical approach as well, which means we need to concentrate on what really, the technology that really makes sense in the classroom. And this may mean not to forget about offline solutions, to think of lower tech that will work really, really well in certain contexts, as well as the need to make digital learning available for working in low data environments. To wrap up, going back to my favorite image, obviously the road to equity in education is long and winding. We know that many stakeholders in education industry are determined to bring personal growth for current and future generations, and I'm convinced that as edtech startup founders and drivers, you all play a critical role in defining and executing new solutions, stirring as well as steering and dynamizing the landscape. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this brilliant keynote, Joseph. We're a little bit over time, so I'll probably just ask only one question, and probably we can take a couple of questions from the audience as well. So as we're getting ready to pull some questions from the crowd, my main question for you would be, so you insist, you're very deliberate in insisting on an equity, right? And you have so many learners at the bottom of the pyramid that are waiting for edtech solutions to bridge that gap. But from an edtech founder point of view, you need to survive, you need to monetize your solution as well. So what does that mean effectively for an edtech startup to be equitable when your first goal is to make enough revenue to survive?
That's a great question. And my immediate answer would be that being equitable doesn't mean that you need to lose money. Quite on the contrary. I think it is a journey, and it's a matter of sowing the seeds for going after equity, just making sense of what, or delivering to what really makes sense in the classroom. If we pay attention to what the actual needs of students and teachers and society at large is, I think it is very, very easy to solve that equation. I mean, it maybe means to pay attention to other areas. Maybe most companies nowadays are concentrating on K-12 and concentrating on a few thousands of private schools in the region, when, as you were saying, we need to look at the bottom of the pyramid. Both can coexist. It's just finding a way to making it work and bearing in mind the bottom of the pyramid. And I think that is perfectly possible. There are excellent examples out there that are able to achieve this.
Great, thanks you so much for this answer. To my colleagues in Singapore, are you able to pull some questions from the people, from the attendees in the AWS office? All right, if there's no other question, Joseph, I'll just ask a second question. Oh, yeah, okay, there we go. Yeah.
No questions from the audience.
No questions from the audience. All right. So maybe one last question, Joseph. I like how you talked about Gen Alphas, right? And it's totally new and different demographic. And what would be your advice for tech startups to try to build more engaging solutions in the K-12 space, that are relevant to that Gen Alpha segment?
My first advice would be follow the eyeballs. So this is what content companies in the digital age are doing. I mean, first of all, they compete for eyeballs. They compete for attention. Then they compete for time. And last but not least, they build loyalty. So we've seen the data for 10 to 14-year-olds. I mean, this is a generation which is global, digital, highly social, mobile, and visual. And there will be the learners, not of tomorrow, but the learners of today. I mean, for this generation, it's not a difference between a physical and a digital world. I mean, for them, the world is phygital. And as such, this is what we need to pay attention to as educational startups. I mean, we need to pay attention to gamified experiences. We need to pay attention to esports. Most of the skills that students apply to when they do esports can actually be transferred to education. We need to pay attention to video games, and also the values that this generation stands for and stands by. And this probably means working much closer with those companies that develop content for those three areas in particular: gamified experiences, video games, and esports in particular.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Joseph. Robin, do we have time for one last question coming from the audience? I saw a question flashing up.
Yeah, go for one. Which one?
I think it was a question from I think Shreyas on interactivity.
I think Joseph just answered that. Maybe let's go to you. I'll put it on the screen. Are governments increasing their budget for education? It's a more generic question.
The answer is yes, but the reality says no. And as we know, for many, many governments, not only in Asia Pacific, but all around the world, they need to manage crisis. So think, for example, of a pandemic, and we know that most of the investment needs to go into education, needs to go into healthcare. Healthcare took all that investment, and for some governments, the funding that they have is not even enough to propel the health system significantly in order to overcome that. So in many, many instances, I would also like to say that it's not necessarily about increasing the budget. It's a matter of using that budget in a smarter way, which is not what we're seeing. And that would probably take us to a separate discussion that I would hear. I mean, I would be very, very, very happy to take it offline if you want to.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, definitely stay with us, Joseph. I'm sure people at the AWS office will be happy to interact with you directly and also during the virtual networking sessions. So thank you so much again, Joseph, for this great presentation. We're going to transition now onto our EdTech Startup Panel conversation, who I'm sure will be very inspired by some of the insights and some of the massive challenges that you have highlighted throughout your presentation today. So thank you so much again for this, Joseph.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Joseph.
All right, so I'd like to welcome on stage, and sorry if I'm going to butcher your name, Chris Major. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's quite well.
Thanks for this, Chris. And Alan Lalick, I think that one is a bit easier to pronounce. Oh, good. I'm getting fast. Excellent. So Chris is the co-founder and CEO of Relion. He's taking this call from Europe, from the Netherlands, and we have the pleasure to be joined as well by Alan, who is taking this call from Australia, from Sydney, if I'm not wrong. How are you both doing?
Going well. Fantastic day. Going well.
Wonderful. I'd like to start that fireside chat with probably a question for Chris, and about the solutions that you have created. Relion, very innovative. You're using VR. You have created a super exciting solution. So would you be able to tell us more about it and how it contributes to provide broader access to quality education if we connect that back to SDG 4?
Yeah, of course, Camille. Thanks. What's interesting is in today's chaotic world, warfighters and first responders, they must prepare for the unpredictable. We can see that happening everywhere around the world. But unfortunately, they still have to prepare using last century's tools, even in time-sensitive situations. So the result of that is that a lot of the missions that they do are set up for failure. For example, in the US, already 1 in 4 protectors are left broken. So PTSD, mental depression, and traumatic brain injury, they are some of the effects of the current way of working. What we are trying to achieve is to build this platform using immersive training for lifesavers and warfighters. And it lets them basically prepare for any scenario, cost effective and at the edge. I'm sorry for using the word. I'm not a big fan of the word, but essentially it's like the metaverse for those who protect us. And a big chunk of this platform is actually aimed at vocational training. So what we try to do is we try to move training from purely physical, as it's now, to a more balanced physical digital environment to ensure this sustainable workforce for the future. And it ensures, of course, that our lifesavers can still work to save lives. So that's basically why we're raising funding, and that's why we're in Singapore. And by the way, we actually just won a project in Singapore where we work together with HTX and the Singapore Civil Defense Force to introduce this platform for the lifesavers. Back to you, Camille.
Yeah, brilliant. I really like how your solutions is providing access for vocational training and also is helping those professionals to save lives. So I think that relates very well with SDGs. So very excited to have you on this panel today. Let me go to Alan now. Alan, one of the reasons why we're targeting startups is because we believe that founders and entrepreneurs are one of the greatest, catalysts for positive change in the world. So they're part of the solutions when we talk about SDGs. And Kebloom is basically a platform that helps young people to turn their ideas into businesses. So that's quite exciting. Could you please explain how your solution is achieving this?
Yeah, thanks, Camille. And Josep, you did a fantastic presentation. It really brought a lot of things closer to home for myself and Kebloom. And I suppose it was, leading on to your presentation. For us, what we believe, irrespective of race, color, creed, religion, or geographical location, we truly believe that every young person deserves access to technology, access to life skills that is digital, but also accessible at a cost that's fair. So we know this actually removes barriers. When you remove barriers on saying yes, we also know that gives the opportunity for people to be encouraged and inspired to actually want to give it a go. And they know it's not going to cost thousands of dollars to take that risk. So just imagine that now. And this is where Kebloom plays a big part of it. So we've created a platform for Gen Z that is not only teaching the mindset of entrepreneurship, but it's also a place where you can discover yourself. What are your passions? What are your interests? What are your superpowers? It also incorporates belonging to a global community of like-minded young people that are going to support you and encourage you to be your best self. How do we do it? It's a step-by-step process. It guides you through in turning your idea into reality. We know this. Just in the last 12 months, in a Gen Z world, we've had over 30 startups of kids who are between the ages of 9 to 16 that, with the help of Kebloom, have started their own idea and make it come alive, and are actually making real money. That's what we're doing. We go with them, we grow with them. The journey doesn't stop. It just starts with Kebloom. And it's fantastic to see these kids are becoming what they want to become, not told what they should become in this world.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alan. I really like how your platform is planting, entrepreneurial seeds into the youngest minds. I find it like super interesting. Let me go back to Chris. As you mentioned, bit of a buzzword, but I think it's quite relevant as well. So the metaverse, definitely, the COVID, the global pandemic, has accelerated, I think, our transition into digital life. I would, in a way, mobile phones, social media have already kind of like prepared the ground, but this pandemic has really been a catalyst that has propelled the younger generation into even more immersive experiences, and also a need to interact in those immersive spaces as well. And that's something that is very important in the edtech space as well. So I would like to have your take on this. How do you think that immersive learning technologies like AR, VR are going to shape the future of education? And do you think that the metaverse is a reliable space for those learners, and especially the younger ones?
Good point. I think in the end, if you look at it, AR and VR, what kind of acronym you're using for it, right now they require quite expensive devices. I think in the future, they'll be probably going to one device type, and they'll become as common and affordable as your mobile phone now is. It means that learning will actually be when you want and where you want, instead of like centralized at a physical place. And this is like a massive time saver. And time right now, I think, is one of the scarcest assets that we have in this world. It opens up learning also for more people through the easier access. And of course, it also means that we have to design the user interaction in a way to make it as engaging and easy to learn. The question is it like a reliable space? I think Web3 type of technologies, it will provide the tech needed to ensure a safe and reliable space. Previously, safety, for example, was a thing that was bolted on later after the tech was actually already in place. Nowadays, I think the mechanism are thought of like from day one. The thing about this digital space is so nice is that you can truly be who you want to be. You're not longer actually limited to your physical self if you don't even want to. So that will be my my take on this, Camille.
Wonderful. Yeah, thanks for sharing your take on this. And well, you know, the metaverse is more of an idea than an effective solution right now, but we know that things might move very quickly over the next few years. So those are really exciting times, and it's good to see that your solution is actually using that potential space in a very meaningful way. So thanks a lot for sharing this. Alan, back to you, and the questions about how you're planning to scale your solution to make it more accessible potentially to, we mentioned the bottom of the pyramid, you know, young people across Asia Pacific. So currently your team is based between Australia and the US, right? So so what's the game plan a little bit to share your solution and train the entrepreneurs of tomorrow in the rest of the region here?
Yes, I'll answer that part first, and I'll expand it a little bit more. So right now, as Josip mentioned, there are three forms of technology: your laptop, desktop, and your other devices, a mobile phone. And out of those devices, mobile phone, I suppose, is most cost effective. So Kabloom's actually looking at building our app. So we're in design phase. We've got to outline. So we're going into that funding round, and the grey hairs are coming through, but it's worth the heartache and pain. So we, in other ways that we're expanding right now, whilst we're trying to build out Kabloom on the app world, is that we've partnered with an organisation called Outschool, and over the past 14 months, we've actually grown out to 20 countries, as in revenue, not just users. And just recently, we talk about, you know, left field countries, a country of say, Mozambique. We've got our first student. No, it's not in Asia, but it just shows that there are growing entrepreneurs around the world, irrespective of location. We've been partnering with private enterprise, government, and schools across North America. We're also looking at scaling out more into Asia. And one of the ways we've actually done that, we've actually partnered with a major university here in Australia who did a research report on Korea, Indonesia, and Japan. And the focus was, how do we actually get into these markets strategically? How do we get into these markets friendly? But more importantly, how do we spread the word of Kabloom in a way that actually is no longer a secret, but is actually known to those that are important? So that's one way. Other way would be through influencers, the whole modern world of technology. Kids are no longer, they want to show what they're doing, and they want to be proud of what they're doing. So for us, it's all about government, private enterprise, schools, influencers, showcasing what Kabloom can actually do. And yes, so we're very much in that early stage of this region. And those that can help are on this call. Be happy to jump in a conversation to start that conversation as well. So yeah, that's what we've been doing, and that's our pathways to opening up the Asia world.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that ask and doing that opening. Which actually allows me to bridge that to some potential questions from the audience. Do we have any questions from anybody in the live chat or from or attendees in the Singapore office? And in the meantime,
Looks like there's no questions.
All right, so no questions over here. In which case, let's probably keep it a bit more time for networking. But before we wrap this up with this panel over here, we have questions.
Yeah, you can see on the camera, I have a question.
All right, Robin has a question. As you can see, he has a finger up.
Just out of curiosity, because Chris and me happen to have gone to the same university back home in the Netherlands, I'm just really curious, now you're working on something educational related. Is there anything that you picked up during your studies in Enschede that has helped you build a company that you're currently doing?
Yeah, I think the entrepreneurship part. I think being entrepreneurial and being encouraged also to do things like that. I think that was one of the most important things. And I was lucky because I had a professor who was like that. I did my internship at my own company at the time. I actually graduated at my own company at the time, and that was not from the rest of the university. That was not really a normal thing, but for my professor, this was really something that he said, like, hey, you need to explore. So I think that's very important to have people around you that support you and that push you a bit.
Thanks a lot for this, Chris. So we're going to start virtual, before we start the virtual networking session and also in person over here. Maybe would you be able to share an ask as you're about to network with other people, both you and Alan and Chris? Do you have any ask from the audience? Like, it could be connections to universities, schools, or any advice that you could share with other tech founders in the region. Really open for you to share any ask to the audience, to the rest of the world right here, both of you.
Alan?
Okay, yeah, certainly for me. Again, thank you, Camille, for the opportunity. Chris, thank you for letting me jump in first. For me, it's about opening up doors in Asia. What's the starting point? Those who are there, those who are passionate and have that fire in their belly to say, you know what, the world is a changing place. Education system is broken. Can today help tomorrow's future talent? If those are the questions that you're asking yourself and you're on this video call and you're thinking no, and there is a solution to that problem, which is Kabloom, I'd love to talk to you guys. Just to start that conversation, that would be fantastic.
Awesome, thanks, Alan. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, for me, it would basically be the same. We're lucky that we just won this project already in Singapore. So that's basically our first door that went open in Singapore. And for me, second things that will be interesting is, of course, like making the connection with people that can or help out in this area of this immersive platform that we're building, or more on the fundraising part. So those things for us are like massive important.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, both. I really appreciate your time and sharing your experiences and insight. Extremely valuable. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thank you very much, guys. And with that, we're closing off the educational part of today's session.
Yeah. You probably want to come a bit more.
Oh, no. I should be on frame,
right,
for most people. So we're going to have 10 minutes of networking right now. It's going to be similar to how it was before, so you'll find the tables in the room. I'm not going to show you the slides. I think everyone here on the call is way too smart to actually need an explanation. I also want to point out the leaderboard. At the moment, Hugh is at the top because he's been asking a lot of questions. So make sure that you do a lot of interactions. We're going to be back here with Steve Melhuis in exactly 10 minutes from now. So make sure to be back here then for what's going to be a very cool interview, I think. You also can ask him a lot of questions that you always wanted to be answered by somebody who's been running a very big, successful company. So we'll be back here 10 minutes from now, 12:42 Singapore time.
A quick message before that. So you will meet some of our partners and sponsors as well on those networking table. So first one is Cognis, a no-code app builder that can help all of you who are interested to build an edtech, health tech kind of solution, and you don't have any technical skills. That's possible on Cognis. So do visit their networking table to get more information. And the second partner for today is Globalization Partners, that allows startups or SMEs to outsource some of their business development kind of like task force in places where you want to test the ground at low cost and a very easy way. And globalization partners, for those who are at the Singapore office, will be running a lunch and learn after the keynote by Steve Melvish. So do not leave us after the talk with Steve. Stay with us, have lunch, learn at the same time, and there'll be more networking on site as well. So do stay with us till the end.
See you in 10 minutes.